Ron Howard is often seen as Hollywood's gentle, dependable director. He has a reputation for kindness, patience, and professionalism. He is the kind of filmmaker who seems easy to work with, someone who values calm and discipline on set. Yet, behind that warm smile lies a very different story. Even the most patient people have limits, and Howard is no exception. Throughout his career, he encountered actors whose behavior, attitudes, or working style push him to the edge. These experiences shaped him as a filmmaker and, in some cases, led him to refuse working with certain stars again. Some of these actors were friends or mentors. Others were simply colleagues. But in every case, the collaboration left Howard frustrated, exhausted, or both. What makes this story especially compelling is that it's not just about Hollywood drama. It's about the clash of creative personalities and how even a brilliant actor can make the filmmaking process unbearable. The first actor on Howard's list is the legendary Jim Carrey. Carrey, known for his energetic, unpredictable performances, appeared in How the Grinch Stole Christmas in 2000, a role that seemed perfectly suited to his chaotic talent. But for Howard, working with Carrey was almost unbearable. The production involved long hours in heavy latex makeup and full-body costumes, which made Carrey uncomfortable and increasingly irritable. His frustration escalated, and he began lashing out at the crew and even Howard himself. The tension became so intense that Universal executives had to bring in a former Navy SEAL to help Carrey cope with the physical strain of his costume. Despite the chaos, the movie became a holiday classic. Still, Howard later admitted that the experience aged him a decade. Carrey, for his part, joked that it felt like being buried alive. Although both can look back with humor, the incident permanently altered their working relationship. When asked if he would work with Carrey again, Howard acknowledged the actor's brilliance but noted that some talent could be too overwhelming to handle. Next is Cillian Murphy, who worked with Howard on In the Heart of the Sea in 2015. Murphy had a calm, disciplined reputation that initially aligned perfectly with Howard's vision. At first, their collaboration seemed ideal. Murphy even praised Howard as the kindest director he had ever worked with. However, the filming process was grueling, with the cast enduring freezing water, long hours, and strict calorie restrictions to appear convincingly emaciated. Over time, Murphy's enthusiasm waned, and he began to feel more like a lab experiment than a collaborator. A dramatic scene in which his character collapsed into a lifeboat marked a turning point. Exhausted, Murphy refused to continue without a break, challenging Howard to adapt. Howard, always professional, negotiated a solution, but the tension left a lasting mark. Though neither publicly attacked the other, their partnership cooled. Years later, Murphy suggested that he might not be willing to give the total surrender Howard expected, while Howard recognized that sometimes intensity can be mistaken for conflict. The experience demonstrated that even the most disciplined actors can clash with Howard's standards when the work becomes extreme. Russell Crowe represents another challenging collaboration. After their acclaimed work together on A Beautiful Mind, Howard looked forward to collaborating again. However, Crowe's method-acting style clashed with Howard's structured, precise approach. Their conflicts reached a peak during Cinderella Man, when Crowe's insistence on reshooting entire monologues and questioning creative choices put the set under enormous strain. Howard, known for his composure, remained calm but internally struggled to maintain control. Crew members described the tension as almost palpable, and the director likened working with Crowe to trying to build a church while riding a bull. Despite these difficulties, the film succeeded critically, and Crowe delivered a strong performance. Still, both men recognized that their working rhythms differed too much for future collaborations. Crowe later acknowledged that Howard was one of the best, but they simply approached the creative process differently. This dynamic illustrates how even mutual respect cannot always overcome incompatible working styles. Tom Cruise presented yet another challenge for Howard during the filming of Far and Away. Cruise, known for his intensity and energy, preferred bold, explosive performances, while Howard valued subtlety, patience, and controlled execution. This difference led to a slow-burning tension throughout the production. On several occasions, Cruise openly disagreed with Howard's direction, expressing frustration mid-scene and challenging the quiet, deliberate pace the director preferred. Even co-stars like Nicole Kidman struggled to mediate between them. Howard adapted by shooting additional coverage to anticipate potential conflicts, but the clash never fully resolved. After the film, Howard described the experience as a marathon of control disguised as collaboration, highlighting the challenge of balancing two very strong creative forces. Cruise, for his part, acknowledged that the two men simply saw filmmaking differently. While neither held public grudges, they never collaborated again, demonstrating how even accomplished actors can create friction when their style does not align with the director's approach. Chevy Chase, famous for his comedic talent, was another actor Howard avoided. Chase's reputation for unpredictability and on-set disruptions was well known long before any collaboration was planned. When Universal suggested pairing them for a comedy, Howard declined, saying he wouldn't babysit a hurricane. Chase's history of walking off sets, clashing with directors, and challenging co-stars made him an incompatible match for Howard's methodical style. Chase mocked Howard publicly, suggesting that working with nice guys was boring. Howard's response, simple, measured, and firm, showed his priorities. He valued calm and control over chaotic talent. Their paths never crossed professionally, and the choice highlighted Howard's commitment to maintaining harmony on set over chasing unpredictable star power. Finally, Marlon Brando, the legendary actor of The Godfather fame, proved to be one of Howard's most difficult experiences. Brando's refusal to follow structure, memorize lines, or respect rehearsals created chaos during production. Scenes fell apart, costs increased, and Howard's patience was stretched to the limit. Despite Brando's brilliance, the collaboration became a cautionary tale for the director, who later said, "Genius is no excuse for madness." The project never recovered, and Howard refused to work with Brando again. While the actor remained dismissive and cryptic in interviews, the ordeal shaped Howard's philosophy. Talent alone cannot justify unpredictability. The experience reinforced his preference for collaboration, discipline, and calm control in filmmaking. Ultimately, the stories of these 6 actors show a hidden side of Ron Howard. While he is known as a calm, patient, and professional director, his career includes experiences that tested his limits and shaped his principles. Jim Carrey, Cillian Murphy, Russell Crowe, Tom Cruise, Chevy Chase, and Marlon Brando each brought unique challenges, whether through chaos, intensity, or unpredictability. Howard's decisions to distance himself from certain actors were not born of spite, but pragmatism. Maintaining harmony and control on set is essential to achieving creative success. These experiences reveal that even in Hollywood, where talent and ego often collide, discipline, patience, and professionalism ultimately define a director's ability to succeed. They also remind us that brilliance, while valuable, is not always compatible with collaboration. Howard's story is a testament to the quiet power of composure and the careful choices required to navigate a world filled with larger-than-life personalities. Ron Howard is widely regarded as one of Hollywood's most dependable directors. Known for his calm demeanor, patience, and professionalism, he has a reputation for guiding chaotic productions into smooth, successful films. Audiences often see him as approachable and easygoing, a director who balances creativity with discipline. However, even the most patient individuals have limits, and Howard is no exception. Over decades in the industry, he has encountered actors whose attitudes, unpredictability, or working style challenge him in ways few could imagine. Some of these were close colleagues, even friends, while others were collaborators whose approach clashed with Howard's values. These experiences shaped his career and philosophy, teaching him that brilliance alone does not guarantee a harmonious production. The following stories reveal the 6 actors whose behavior tested Howard's limits, leaving him unwilling to work with them again, and offer insight into the hidden challenges of filmmaking. The first actor on Howard's list is Jim Carrey, a performer known for his boundless energy and improvisational genius. Carrey took on the role of the Grinch in 2000, a character that required hours in a heavy latex costume and full-body makeup. While audiences loved the film, the production was a nightmare for Howard. Spending 8 hours a day in a restrictive outfit left Carrey frustrated, and his irritation escalated into lashing out at the crew and even Howard himself. By the 3rd day, the atmosphere on set was tense, and Universal executives had to bring in a Navy SEAL to help Carrey manage the physical and emotional stress of the role. Despite the chaos, the film became a holiday classic. Howard later admitted the experience aged him a decade, while Carey joked that it felt like being buried alive. The incident created a lasting rift, though both actors reflect on it with humor now. Howard has said he would be cautious about working with Carey again, noting that sometimes brilliance burns too hot to handle. This story illustrates how even exceptional talent can overwhelm a production if boundaries and discipline are not respected. Cillian Murphy worked with Howard on In the Heart of the Sea in 2015. Initially, the collaboration seemed ideal. Murphy had a calm, focused reputation that aligned perfectly with Howard's structured approach. Murphy praised Howard as one of the kindest directors he had ever worked with, and the beginning of production went smoothly. However, the shoot was grueling. Actors endured freezing water, minimal calories, and months of physically demanding conditions to achieve realism. Over time, Murphy's enthusiasm waned, and he began to feel more like a test subject than a creative partner. A particularly intense scene, in which his character collapsed into a lifeboat, marked a breaking point. Exhausted, Murphy refused to continue without a break, challenging Howard to adapt without compromising his vision. Though neither publicly criticized the other, the tension cooled their professional relationship. Howard later reflected that sometimes intensity is mistaken for conflict, and while Murphy is brilliant, their collaboration demonstrated the limits of endurance in high-pressure filmmaking. This story emphasizes the importance of balancing realism and respect for an actor's limits. Howard's experience with Russell Crowe highlights the clash of creative styles. After their critically acclaimed collaboration on A Beautiful Mind, the director hoped to work with Crowe again. However, during Cinderella Man, Crowe's method-acting approach conflicted with Howard's meticulous style. Crowe questioned every creative choice, including lighting, pacing, and emotional delivery, insisting on reshooting entire monologues when he felt the scene lacked authenticity. Howard, known for his calm, professional demeanor, did not retaliate but had to manage mounting tension on set. Crew members described the environment as electric, and Howard likened the challenge to trying to build a church while riding a bull. Despite the difficulties, the film succeeded, and Crowe delivered a memorable performance. Both men later acknowledged that their working rhythms were too different to collaborate effectively again. This story demonstrates that respect and talent do not always overcome incompatible creative approaches, and managing strong personalities is as important as directing technical aspect of a film. Tom Cruise presented another challenging dynamic during Far and Away. Cruise thrives on bold, energetic performances, often seeking explosive, visceral moments on screen. Howard, however, values calm, controlled execution, subtlety, and precision. Their differences created tension from the first week of filming, with Cruise openly disagreeing with Howard's direction and expressing frustration mid-shot. Co-stars, including Nicole Kidman, attempted to mediate, but the gap between their approaches was significant. Howard adapted by shooting extra coverage, anticipating moments of potential conflict. Yet the friction persisted. Post-production, Howard described the experience as a marathon of control disguised as collaboration, highlighting the difficulty of balancing two strong creative forces. Cruise publicly acknowledged their different perspectives, stating that the two simply saw filmmaking differently. Despite mutual respect, they never collaborated again. This story reinforces that even highly disciplined directors like Howard must navigate personality clashes to preserve the integrity of production. Chevy Chase's reputation for unpredictability preceded any potential collaboration. By the late 1980s, Chase was known for walking off sets, clashing with directors and challenging co-stars, making him a poor match for Howard's controlled, professional approach. When Universal suggested pairing them for a high-budget comedy, Howard declined, saying he wouldn't babysit a hurricane. Chase reportedly mocked Howard publicly, suggesting that working with nice guys was boring. Howard's firm, measured response reflected his priorities. Maintaining calm and harmony on set was more important than pursuing chaotic talent. They never worked together. And the incident underscores the value Howard places on collaboration over spectacle, demonstrating that experience, reputation, and temperament weigh as heavily as talent in choosing projects. Marlon Brando, one of cinema's greatest actors, proved to be Howard's most challenging collaboration. Brando refused rehearsals, declined to memorize lines, and frequently changed a performance mid-scene. The project quickly descended into chaos. Scenes were derailed, costs escalated, and Howard's patience reached its limit. Despite Brando's brilliance, Howard decided not to continue collaboration, later stating, "Genius is no excuse for madness." The experience shaped his philosophy. Talent alone cannot justify unpredictability, and effective filmmaking requires structure and collaboration. Brando remained dismissive in interviews, but the ordeal left a lasting impression on Howard, reinforcing his commitment to calm, discipline, and collaborative direction. The stories of Jim Carrey, Cillian Murphy, Russell Crowe, Tom Cruise, Chevy Chase, and Marlon Brando reveal a hidden side of Ron Howard. While widely seen as calm and patient, his career demonstrates the limits of tolerance and the importance of clear boundaries. These experiences show that even brilliance cannot always replace collaboration, discipline, and mutual respect on a film set. Howard's decisions to avoid working with certain actors reflect pragmatic choices rather than personal vendettas, emphasizing that harmony is essential to achieving creative success. Ultimately, these anecdotes illuminate the quiet power of patience, the careful navigation of personality clashes, and the high stakes of filmmaking. In Hollywood, where ego and talent often collide, Howard's story is a lesson in maintaining professionalism, making difficult decisions, and recognizing that some storms are simply not worth weathering. Ron Howard is known as one of Hollywood's calmest and most dependable directors. People see him as patient, professional, and easygoing, a director who keeps productions running smoothly. But even Howard has limits. Over his career, he encountered actors whose behavior, intensity, or unpredictability pushed him to the edge. Some are friends, others colleagues. Yet all challenge his patience in ways that left him deciding, sometimes permanently, not to work with them again. These stories reveal the actors who tested Howard the most, and the lessons he learned about discipline, collaboration, and the cost of genius in Hollywood. Jim Carrey is famous for his energy and improvisation, but working with him on How the Grinch Stole Christmas was nearly impossible for Howard. Carrey spent hours trapped in heavy latex and a full-body costume. The physical strain made him frustrated, and his irritation soon affected the crew. By the third day, Carrey was lashing out, tossing scripts and improvising lines, making the set tense and unpredictable. Howard tried to stay calm, but Universal executives had to bring in a Navy SEAL to help Carrey handle the pressure. Despite the chaos, the movie became a holiday classic. Howard later admitted that the shoot aged him a decade. Carrey joked it felt like being buried alive. While both can laugh about it now, Howard has said he would be cautious about working with Carrey again. This shows that brilliance can sometimes be too much to manage on a set. Cillian Murphy joined Howard for In the Heart of the Sea, initially a perfect match. Murphy had a calm, focused reputation, and Howard admired his professionalism, but the shoot was brutal. Actors endured freezing water, minimal calories, and long, grueling hours. Over time, Murphy's enthusiasm faded. During a lifeboat scene, exhausted and cold, he refused another take without a break. Howard negotiated,